I, 29M, am currently sitting in my Denver apartment at 2 a.m., typing this out because I can't sleep. The silence is deafening after 3 years of constant noise, planning, and what I now realize was emotional manipulation. My ex-fiancée Jessica, 27F, dropped a bomb on me 5 days ago that changed everything, and I'm still processing the absolute chaos that followed. The backstory. Jessica and I met at a mutual friend's house party in Boulder 3.5 years ago. She was this bubbly, energetic marketing coordinator for a tech startup, and I was a project manager for a construction company. We clicked immediately. She laughed at my terrible jokes. I was fascinated by her stories about startup culture, and we ended up talking until 4 a.m. about everything from travel dreams to our favorite documentaries. Our relationship moved fast, maybe too fast in hindsight. She practically moved in after 6 months, though she kept her own apartment lease, just in case. Something that should have been a red flag, but I chalked up to being practical. We talked about marriage early on, shared Pinterest boards of dream wedding venues, and she was constantly showing me engagement ring styles she happened to see online. The proposal happened last Christmas at Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs, her favorite place in Colorado. I had planned it for months, coordinated with her parents, even hired a discreet photographer to capture the moment. She said yes while crying happy tears, posted the ring photo on Instagram within minutes, and immediately started planning what she called the wedding of the century, the wedding planning nightmare. That's when everything started to change, though I didn't see it at the time. Jessica became obsessed with the wedding in a way that bordered on unhealthy. She had 3 different Pinterest boards, a color-coded Excel spreadsheet with vendor comparisons, and a wedding planning binder that was literally 3 inches thick. Every conversation somehow circled back to the wedding. Dinner became menu tastings, weekends became venue visits, and date nights became discussions about invitation wording. I tried to be supportive, but honestly, it was exhausting. When I suggested we could have a smaller, more intimate ceremony, she looked at me like I had suggested we elope to Vegas. "This is the most important day of my life, Michael," she would say. "I've been dreaming about this since I was 5 years old." The wedding planning brought out a side of Jessica I'd never seen before. She became demanding with vendors, threw tantrums when things didn't go exactly her way, and started treating our friends and family like unpaid wedding coordinators. Her maid of honor, Brittany, was practically her full-time assistant, and Jessica's mom, Patricia, started avoiding her calls because every conversation became a wedding crisis. But the biggest change was how she started treating me. I went from being her partner to being another vendor she needed to manage. She would hand me lists of tasks, criticize my suggestions, and generally make me feel like I was failing at being a good fiancé if I wasn't as excited about napkin colors as she was. 3 months before the wedding, I suggested we take a weekend off from wedding planning and just relax together. She accused me of not caring about our special day and gave me the silent treatment for 2 days. 2 months before the wedding, when the stress was clearly getting to both of us, I suggested we consider postponing and having a smaller ceremony the following year. She completely lost it, screaming that I was trying to sabotage her dreams and that maybe I didn't really want to marry her. I should have seen these as warning signs, but I kept telling myself it was just wedding stress and that she'd go back to being the woman I fell in love with after we got married. I was wrong. The red flags I ignored. Looking back now, the signs were everywhere in the final 2 months. Her social media obsession. Jessica had always been active on Instagram, but it became an addiction. She was posting wedding-related content daily, responding to comments from people I'd never heard of, and spending hours curating the perfect, engaged life image. She started referring to our relationship in terms of how it would look on social media. "This will be such a cute post," she'd say about random moments that should have been private and intimate. The mystery friend group. She started mentioning people I'd never met. Friends from her yoga class, people from a networking group she joined, colleagues from other companies in her industry. When I asked to meet these people, she always had excuses. "They're super busy," or "you probably wouldn't have much in common with them." The Brittany factor. Her maid of honor, Brittany, had never liked me. She was Jessica's college roommate, recently divorced, and had very strong opinions about marriage being a patriarchal institution designed to trap women. Brittany was constantly in Jessica's ear about maintaining her independence and not losing herself in a relationship. Jessica started parroting a lot of Brittany's talking points, and I noticed she became more distant after spending time with her. The work situation. Jessica's job became increasingly demanding, with lots of after-work networking events and team-building activities. She would come home from these events energized and chatty, but in a way that felt different, like she was high on some kind of excitement that didn't include me. The intimacy decline. Our physical relationship started suffering about 3 months before the wedding. Jessica always had excuses. She was tired from wedding planning, stressed about work, needed to wake up early for a vendor meeting. What used to be an affectionate, physically connected relationship became perfunctory goodnight kisses and separate sides of the bed. The money stress. Wedding expenses were spiraling out of control. What started as a $25,000 budget became $35,000, then $45,000. Jessica kept adding essential elements: a second photographer, upgraded flowers, a dessert bar, in addition to the wedding cake. When I tried to discuss the budget, she accused me of being cheap and not wanting to invest in our future together. The Tyler timeline. Here's the kicker. I found out later that Jessica joined her yoga studio exactly 3 months before our breakup conversation. She claimed it was for wedding dress preparation and stress relief. But she went from never doing yoga to going to classes 4 times a week and constantly talking about her spiritual journey. The setup. The week before. The week leading up to our breakup conversation was particularly strange. Jessica was jumpy, constantly on her phone, and seemed to be mentally absent even when she was physically present. She kept starting conversations and then trailing off, like she wanted to tell me something but couldn't bring herself to do it. On Monday, she asked me hypothetically what I would do if she decided she wasn't ready for marriage. I thought she was just having pre-wedding jitters and reassured her that it was normal to feel nervous about such a big commitment. On Tuesday, she asked if I thought people should be with their first real love or if they should explore more before settling down. Again, I attributed this to wedding stress and told her I was grateful she was my person and I didn't need to explore anything else. On Wednesday, she asked if I would still love her if she made a decision I didn't understand. At this point, I was getting worried and asked if she wanted to talk to a counselor together. She said no, she just needed to figure some things out. Thursday and Friday, she was basically a ghost, present in body, but completely absent in spirit. She would start sentences and then say, never mind. She spent most of the weekend at Brittany's apartment, claiming they were working on some last-minute wedding details. Sunday evening, she came back from Brittany's with red, puffy eyes like she'd been crying. When I asked what was wrong, she said she was just overwhelmed and needed to get some sleep. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong, but I still didn't anticipate what was coming. The conversation, extended version. Tuesday evening, the conversation that changed everything. Jessica came home from work unusually early, around 4 p.m. She said she had taken a half day to think. She asked me to sit down on our couch, the gray sectional we had picked out together at Pottery Barn, the one where we had spent countless evenings watching Netflix and planning our future. Michael, she started, and the formal tone immediately put me on edge. She never called me Michael unless she was angry or upset about something serious. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately, about us, about the wedding, about everything. She took a deep breath and launched into what was clearly a rehearsed speech. I've been in therapy, she said, which was news to me. And my therapist has helped me realize that I've been living my life according to other people's expectations instead of my own authentic desires. Red flag number 1. Since when did Jessica talk like a self-help book? I love you, Michael. I really do. But I'm starting to realize that maybe I love the idea of you and the security you represent more than I love you as a person. That hit like a punch to the gut, but she wasn't done. I've been thinking about all the things I never got to experience. I went straight from college to a serious relationship with you. I never got to travel alone, never got to figure out who I am as an independent person, never got to explore other connections. Other connections? I asked, my stomach dropping. I mean, friendships, relationships, different types of people. I've been in a bubble, Michael, our bubble, and I'm starting to feel like I'm suffocating. She went on for another 10 minutes, using phrases like personal growth, authentic self, emotional journey, and finding my truth. None of it sounded like the Jessica I knew. It sounded like she was reading from a script written by someone else. The final blow came with a trembling voice and tears in her eyes. I think we should postpone the wedding. Maybe take a break. I need to discover who I am outside of this relationship before I can commit to forever. I need space to grow into the person I'm meant to be. I sat there processing this information. 3.5 years together, 8 months engaged, 6 weeks until our wedding, deposits paid, invitations sent, family flying in from across the country, and she needed to find herself. The rational part of my brain knew this was classic breakup language. The it's not you, it's me speech dressed up in therapy terminology. But the part of me that loved her was desperately trying to find a way to fix this. What kind of space are we talking about? I asked carefully. I don't know yet. Maybe a few months, maybe longer. I just know that if I marry you in 6 weeks, I'll always wonder what else is out there. And that's not fair to either of us. And what about the wedding, the deposits, the honeymoon? I know it's complicated, but can't we just postpone everything? Tell people we need to move the date? That's when it clicked for me. She wanted to have her cake and eat it too. She wanted to put our relationship on pause while she explored, but keep me as a backup option in case her exploration didn't work out. The postponement wasn't about rescheduling. It was about keeping her options open. Instead of begging or pleading or asking what I could do differently, I surprised both of us by saying, I understand. You're right. We shouldn't get married if you're having doubts. She looked shocked. Really? You're not upset? I'm devastated, I said honestly. But if this is how you feel, then this is how you feel. I can't force you to want to marry me. I do want to marry you, she said quickly. Just not right now. Maybe in a year or two, after I've had time to figure things out. Jessica, that's not how relationships work. You can't put someone on hold while you shop around. That's not what I'm doing, isn't it? The conversation went in circles for another hour. She kept insisting it was just a postponement, just some space, just temporary. I kept trying to get her to be honest about what she really wanted. Finally, she said she was going to stay at Brittany's for a while to give us both time to think. She packed a bag, gave me an awkward hug that felt like a goodbye, and left. The moment the door closed behind her, I felt like I could breathe clearly for the first time in months. The constant wedding stress, the feeling of walking on eggshells, the sense that I was failing some test I didn't even know I was taking, it all lifted. And that's when I knew she wasn't coming back. Not really. This wasn't temporary space. This was a breakup with training wheels. So I decided to treat it like the real thing. The list, comprehensive version. I'm a project manager by trade, which means I approach problems systematically. I opened my laptop and created a detailed spreadsheet titled Wedding Cancellation and Life Reorganization Project. I divided it into several categories: immediate wedding cancellations, time sensitive, venue, Boulder Creek Country Club, $8,000 deposit, potential $15,000 additional payment in 30 days. Catering, Mountain View Catering, $12,000 total, $6,000 already paid. Photography, Sarah Chen Photography, $3,500 total, $1,750 deposit paid. Florist, Boulder Blooms, $2,800 total, or $1,400 deposit paid. DJ Entertainment, Marcus, $1,200 total, $600 deposit paid. Wedding Cake, Sweet Dreams Bakery, $800 total, or $400 deposit paid. Transportation, Luxury Shuttle for Wedding Party, $600 total, $300 deposit paid. Hair and Makeup Team, $1,500 total, $750 deposit paid. Efficient fee, $500, not yet paid. Attire and personal items, Jessica's wedding dress + bridal, $2,400 total, currently being altered. My custom tuxedo, $1,200 total, final fitting scheduled for next week. Jessica's shoes, undergarments, accessories, approximately $800 total. My wedding accessories, watch, cufflinks, shoes, $600 total. Honeymoon and travel, flights to Italy, $3,200 for both tickets, non-refundable but potentially changeable. Hotel reservations in Rome, Florence, and Venice, $4,500 total for 10 days. Travel insurance, $200. Planned activities and tours, $1,800. Shared financial assets, joint savings account, wedding house fund, $23,000 total. My contribution, $18,000, hers $5,000. Joint checking account, monthly expenses, $2,400 current balance. Shared credit card account, Jessica's authorized user on my account. Subscription services and memberships, Netflix, my account, she has the password, $15.99 month. Spotify family plan, my account, she's a member, $15.99 month. Amazon Prime, my account, she uses it, $12.99 month. Gym membership, couples rated 24-hour fitness, $89.99 month. Meal kit delivery service, HelloFresh, $109.99 week. Wine club membership, gift from her parents last Christmas, $89.99 month. Streaming services, Hulu, HBO Max, Disney Plus, various, all on my accounts. The car situation, most complicated. This deserved its own section. Jessica's 2018 Subaru Outback had been totaled in a hit-and-run accident 6 months ago. The insurance payout was less than she owed on the loan, leaving her upside down by about $3,000. Since we were getting married soon and combining finances anyway, I made what seemed like a practical decision at the time. I bought a certified pre-owned 2021 Honda Civic for $24,500. The car was titled solely in my name, financed through my credit union at a great rate, and insured under my policy. Jessica was listed as an authorized driver and had been the primary user since I worked from home and barely needed a car. For all practical purposes, it was her car. She drove it to work daily, had the spare key, kept her emergency kit in the trunk, and had personalized it with her preferred seat settings and radio presets. But legally, it was 100% mine. Housing situation. We lived in my one-bedroom apartment in the Capitol Hill neighborhood of Denver. The lease was solely in my name, as Jessica had moved in gradually over the course of our relationship without officially being added to the lease. Her mail still went to her mother's house in Colorado Springs, and she had never changed her official address. She paid me $800 per month toward rent and utilities. My total monthly housing cost was $1,800, which seemed fair since she was essentially subletting from me. She had some furniture, a bookshelf, a desk, a dresser, but most of the major pieces were mine. Legal and administrative. Emergency contact information. We were each other's primary contacts. Health insurance. She was hoping to get on my plan after marriage. Various accounts where we were listed as beneficiaries. Utility accounts, all in my name, but she contributed monthly. Looking at this comprehensive list, I realized how intertwined our lives had become. Untangling everything would be complex and emotionally difficult. But Jessica had made the decision to disengage, so I was going to make it as clean and complete as possible. I estimated the total financial impact. Wedding-related losses, approximately $12,000–$15,000. Honeymoon losses, approximately $4,000 to $6,000. Opportunity costs and administrative time, immeasurable. But I also realized that getting out now was probably saving me money in the long run. If Jessica was this uncertain about our relationship, how much would a divorce have cost me in 2 years? The cancellation marathon, day 1. I started making calls at 8 a.m. the next morning, armed with my spreadsheet and a fresh cup of coffee. Boulder Creek Country Club, 8:15 a.m. I called and asked to speak with Michelle, our wedding coordinator. Hi, Michelle. This is Michael Thompson. I need to discuss our September 15th wedding booking. Oh, hi, Michael. I was just reviewing your final details. Everything's coming together beautifully. What can I help you with? Taking a deep breath, I said, I need to cancel the wedding. There was a long pause. Cancel? Like postpone? No, cancel completely. The engagement is off. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. These things happen more often than you think. Let me pull up your contract and see what we can do. Michelle was incredibly professional and sympathetic. Because we were canceling more than 30 days out, we would forfeit our $8,000 deposit, but wouldn't be responsible for the additional $15,000 payment that would have been due in 2 weeks. She offered to hold our preferred date for 6 months just in case, but I declined. Are you sure? Sometimes couples work things out. I'm sure, but thank you. She processed the cancellation and sent me a confirmation email within an hour. Mountain View Catering, 8:45 a.m. This call was harder. Chef Rodriguez had been so excited about our menu, and I knew they had already ordered specialty ingredients. Michael, perfect timing. I was just about to call you about the final head count. Actually, Chef, I'm calling to cancel our catering order. The wedding is off. Ay, Dios mío. I'm so sorry to hear that. Let me check your contract. Okay, so you're more than 45 days out, which means, yes, we can refund half of your deposit. That's $3,000 back to you. The other $3,000 covers the planning time and some ingredients we've already purchased. That's fair. I appreciate your understanding. Of course. And Michael, if things change or if you have another event in the future, please call us. We'd love to work with you again. Sarah Chen Photography, 9:20 a.m. This was the most awkward call because Sarah was friends with Jessica's sister. Michael, is everything okay? You sound upset. Sarah, I need to cancel our wedding photography contract. Jessica and I have ended our engagement. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I know how excited you both were. Well, Jessica seemed really excited every time we talked. That comment stung more than it should have. According to our contract, since we're more than 60 days out and I haven't done the engagement shoot yet, I can refund half the deposit. So that's $875 back to you. I'm really sorry this didn't work out. Thank you for being so understanding. Of course. And Michael, for what it's worth, you seem like a really good guy. I hope you find happiness. Boulder Bloom's florist, 9:45 a.m. The florist, Mrs. Patterson, was a sweet older woman who had been genuinely excited about our romantic garden theme. Oh dear, I'm so sorry to hear that. Unfortunately, I've already ordered most of your flowers from my suppliers, and they're scheduled to arrive next week. I can only refund $400 of your $1,400 deposit. I understand. That's the cost of doing business. You know what? You seem like such a nice young man. Would you like me to make you a small arrangement with some of the flowers? Something cheerful for your apartment? The kindness almost broke me. That's very sweet of you, Mrs. Patterson, but I think I need some time without reminders. Of course, dear. Take care of yourself. DJ Marcus answered on the first ring with his characteristic enthusiasm. Michael, my man, ready to party in 6 weeks. Actually, Marcus, I need to cancel. The wedding's off. Aw, hell no. Seriously. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. What does the contract say about cancellations? Normally it's 50% of the total, but dude, you know what? I like you. You were cool during all the planning, never gave me a hard time about the playlist or anything. I'm only going to charge you $300. Consider the rest my gift to help you get back on your feet. Marcus, you don't have to do that. Yeah, I do. I've been through a rough breakup myself, and sometimes you need people to be cool to you when life isn't. The $300 covers my time, and that's it. I was genuinely touched by his kindness. Sweet Dreams Bakery, 10:45 a.m. The bakery owner, Linda, had spent hours with us designing our 3-tier cake. Oh, sweetie, that's just awful. I'm so sorry. Let me see. You're far enough out that I can refund your full deposit. I haven't started any work yet, and I can cancel my orders easily. Really? The full $400? Absolutely. Life's hard enough without keeping money that isn't rightfully mine. By lunchtime, I had canceled the major vendors and recovered about $5,175 of our deposits, while losing approximately $6,325. It hurt, but it wasn't devastating. The cancellation marathon, day 2, the honeymoon situation. This required more research and several phone calls. United Airlines, 11 a.m. Our flights to Rome were booked on basic economy tickets, which are typically non-refundable and non-changeable. But I called anyway. I understand these are non-refundable tickets, but I'd like to explore my options. The reason for cancellation is that my fiancé and I have ended our engagement. The customer service representative, Maria, was surprisingly sympathetic. Let me see what I can do. I can't refund the tickets, but I can convert them to travel credits in your name only. The credits would be valid for 1 year from today, minus a $200 change fee. So I could get $3,000 in travel credits for $200. Not ideal, but better than losing the full amount. Hotel reservations. I had booked our hotels through booking.com, and their cancellation policies varied. Rome Hotel, full refund if canceled 7 days before arrival. Florence Hotel, 50% refund if canceled 14 days before arrival. Venice Hotel, non-refundable, but I could modify dates. I canceled Rome and Florence completely, getting back $2,800. The Venice Hotel I changed to a single room for a future solo trip, just in case I wanted to use those travel credits. Planned activities. Most of our tours and activities were booked through Viator and Get Your Guide, both of which have reasonable cancellation policies. I was able to cancel everything and get back $650 of the $1,800 we had spent. Total honeymoon recovery, 4,450 out of $700 spent. The financial separation, the joint accounts. This required a trip to our credit union, Colorado Community Financial. I had an appointment with Janet, the personal banker who had helped us set up our accounts. Michael, I heard from Michelle at Boulder Creek that the wedding is off. I'm so sorry. Word travels fast in Denver's wedding vendor network. Thank you. I need to discuss our joint accounts and figure out how to handle this fairly. Janet pulled up our account history on her computer. Okay, let's see what we're working with. Joint savings account, total balance, $23,000. My contributions, $18,000, documented through direct deposit history. Jessica's contributions, $5,000, documented through transfers from her personal account. This is actually pretty straightforward, Janet said. Since you can document the contribution amounts, you have a strong legal claim to the proportional amounts. But as joint account holders, either of you could legally withdraw the full amount. I made a decision that I thought was fair and would prevent future drama. I transferred Jessica's $5,000 contribution plus an additional $1,000 as a goodwill gesture to her personal checking account and moved the remaining $17,000 to my personal savings account. In the memo line, I wrote, your savings contribution plus $1 goodwill. Wedding canceled as discussed. Mike. Joint checking account. This was simpler. We used this account for shared monthly expenses like groceries and date nights. The current balance was $2,400. I split it evenly, transferring $1,200 to her account and $1,200 to mine. Credit card situation. Jessica was an authorized user on my credit card, which we used for wedding expenses and shared purchases. I called the credit card company and removed her as an authorized user, effective immediately. Any pending charges she had made would still go through, but she couldn't make new purchases. I also changed the mailing address to only my apartment and updated my contact information to remove her as a secondary contact. The subscription purge. This was almost therapeutic. Going through every shared digital service and reclaiming my accounts felt like taking back pieces of my independence. Netflix, changed password, removed her profile. Spotify, removed her from family plan, changed password. Amazon Prime, removed her as household member, changed password. Hulu, HBO Max, Disney Plus, changed all passwords. Gym membership, called 24 Hour Fitness, and removed her from our couple's membership, saving $30 a month. HelloFresh, canceled completely. This was mostly for her anyway, and I could cook for myself. Wine Club, this was a gift from her parents, so I called and had it transferred to Jessica's address. Total monthly savings, $267.94. It's funny how many little financial strings you don't realize are connected until you start cutting them. The car text. 2 days after our conversation, I sent Jessica what I thought was a straightforward, practical text. Hi, Jess. I've started canceling wedding vendors as we discussed. I also need to figure out the car situation. Since you're taking time to discover yourself and we're not getting married, I can't keep you on my insurance or have you as the primary driver. Insurance liability is complicated when the driver doesn't live with the policyholder. Let me know when you want to return it, or I can pick it up from Brittany's. Thanks. I wasn't trying to be vindictive or cruel. This was a genuine insurance and liability concern. If Jessica got in an accident while we were on a break and she was no longer living with me, my insurance company could potentially deny the claim or drop my coverage entirely. The text showed as delivered and then read within an hour, but there was no response. The silence period for 72 hours, nothing. Radio silence. My text was read but not answered. She would have gotten notifications about the bank transfers by now. She would have discovered that her Netflix, Spotify, and other passwords no longer worked. During this silence period, I used the time productively. Apartment preparation. I went through the apartment and gathered all of Jessica's belongings into neat piles in the living room. Clothes, books, toiletries, kitchen gadgets she had bought, decorative items, her yoga equipment, everything. I wasn't being spiteful. I just wanted to make it easy for her to collect her things when she was ready. I also took photos of everything for my own records, just in case there were later disputes about what belonged to whom. Legal consultation. I called my college roommate Jake, who's now a family law attorney in Fort Collins, and ran the situation by him. Mike, you're handling this exactly right, he said. Document everything. Be fair, but protect yourself. And don't let emotions drive your decisions. The car thing especially. You're absolutely correct about the insurance liability. And the joint account split sounds more than fair. What if she tries to claim I'm being vindictive or controlling? From what you've told me, you're treating this exactly like what she said she wanted. A separation. You're not obligated to maintain someone's lifestyle when they've ended the relationship. Just keep records of everything. Work notification. I decided to give my boss, David, a heads up, since Jessica and I had been to several company events together, and people would probably ask questions. I'm sorry to hear that, Mike, David said. Take whatever time you need, and don't worry about the company events or the Christmas party. We'll handle any awkward questions. I appreciated his directness and support. Emotional processing. I won't lie, this period was hard emotionally. I kept expecting to feel angrier or more devastated than I actually did. Instead, I mostly felt relieved, like a weight had been lifted. The constant wedding stress, the feeling of walking on eggshells, the sense that I was somehow failing Jessica's expectations, all of that was gone. I slept better those 3 nights than I had in months. The return, extended version. Day 4, around 11:30 p.m., my doorbell started ringing. Not just a polite single ring, someone was leaning on it with increasing insistence. I checked my phone, 3 missed calls from Jessica in the past hour, and 2 from an unknown number. I looked through the peephole and saw Jessica standing in the hallway. She looked disheveled, her hair was messy, and she was clearly agitated. I opened the door. "What the hell is your problem?" She started before I could even say hello. Her voice was loud enough that I worried about my neighbors. "Hello, Jessica? Could you please lower your voice?" "Don't you hello Jessica me? You canceled our entire wedding? Are you completely insane? You said you needed space to discover yourself." I replied calmly. "I assumed that meant you didn't want to get married in 6 weeks." "I said postpone, not cancel," she screamed. "Actually, you said you needed to discover who you are outside of this relationship before you could commit to forever. That sounds like canceling to me." She pushed past me into the apartment. I noticed she smelled like alcohol and cigarettes, which was strange because Jessica rarely drank and never smoked. "And you took all the money, and my car, and you canceled everything." Her voice was getting shriller. "I took my contribution to our joint account, plus the wedding refunds," I corrected calmly. "You got your full contribution plus an extra $1,000 as a goodwill gesture. The car is registered and insured in my name. I can't have someone who doesn't live here be the primary driver." "I do live here," she shouted. "Do you? You said you were staying at Brittany's to give us space. Your driver's license still lists your mother's address in Colorado Springs. You're not on the lease. According to you, you needed space to discover yourself outside of this relationship." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Legally and practically, she didn't have a leg to stand on. "This is insane," she said, but with less conviction. "You're being vindictive and controlling." "I'm being practical. You wanted space to discover yourself. I'm giving you that space. But I need the car for work, and all my streaming accounts are canceled." "I understand that's inconvenient. There are rental companies, or you could buy something with the $6,000 I transferred to your account. As for the streaming services, you can set up your own accounts." She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "Michael, you're scaring me. This isn't like you." "What's not like me? Accepting your decision? Not fighting you on something you clearly want?" That's when the facade started cracking and the truth began to come out. "I didn't mean, I just wanted. Tyler said that." She caught herself, but it was too late. The name hung in the air like a toxic cloud. "Who's Tyler?" He's just a friend. Tyler wasn't mentioned in your speech about self-discovery and authentic growth." I sat down in my chair, not on the couch where she was sitting, and waited. "He's someone I met at my yoga class. We've been talking." "Talking about what?" "About life, about whether I was settling, about whether I was getting married for the right reasons." "And what did Tyler conclude?" She was crying now, but they seemed like tears of frustration rather than genuine sadness. "He said I was too young to tie myself down, that I should experience more before committing to one person forever, that I was beautiful and smart and shouldn't limit myself." "And you agreed with Tyler?" I was confused. "I am confused." "No, Jessica, you're not confused. You met someone new and exciting, and he gave you permission to blow up our relationship without having to be the bad guy. The postponement was supposed to let you test drive Tyler while keeping me as backup." She looked up at me with red, puffy eyes. I wouldn't." "Then call off whatever's happening with Tyler. Tell him you made a mistake. Move back in here tomorrow, and we'll call all the vendors back and try to salvage our wedding." The silence stretched between us for a full minute. I can't. Because you don't want to marry me, or because you can't give up Tyler?" More silence. "Both," she whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. I nodded slowly. "Then we're done. Really done. Not postponed, not on a break. Done. But I love you," she said desperately. "No, Jessica. You love the security I provide. You love having a wedding to plan and Instagram posts to make. You love the idea of being engaged. But you don't love me enough to choose me over a guy you met at yoga." The extended breakdown. What followed was a complete emotional meltdown that lasted almost 2 hours. Jessica cycled through denial, anger, bargaining, and desperation in a way that was both heartbreaking and exhausting to witness. The denial phase. "This is all a misunderstanding. Tyler doesn't mean anything. I was just confused and scared about getting married. Everyone gets cold feet, right? We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can take a short break and then plan the wedding again for next year." I remained calm and consistent. "You made a choice, Jessica. You chose to pursue something with Tyler instead of working on our relationship. That choice has consequences." The anger phase. "You're being controlling and manipulative. You're trying to punish me for being honest about my feelings. A loving partner would fight for the relationship, not just give up and destroy everything we built together. You're being cruel and vindictive." "I'm being logical," I replied. "You told me you needed space to discover yourself outside of our relationship. I'm giving you exactly what you asked for." The bargaining phase. "What if I promise to cut off all contact with Tyler? What if I delete his number and never go back to that yoga studio? What if I prove to you that I choose you? I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. I'll move back in tomorrow and we can start over." "It's too late for that, Jessica. The trust is broken. You've shown me that when things get difficult, your instinct is to look for an exit strategy instead of working on our relationship. That's not someone I can build a life with." the desperation phase. This was the hardest to watch. She fell to her knees, literally, and begged me to reconsider. She talked about all our good memories, our shared dreams, the life we had planned together. She promised she would be a better partner, that this experience had taught her how much I meant to her. Please, Michael, I made a mistake, a huge mistake. But people make mistakes. We can get through this together. Some mistakes can't be unmade, Jessica. You didn't accidentally meet Tyler. You didn't accidentally start confiding in him about our relationship. You didn't accidentally let him convince you that you were settling. These were conscious choices you made over a period of months. Finally, she played what she thought was her trump card. Fine, but I'm not giving you back the engagement ring. I almost laughed. Keep it, sell it, pawn it, throw it in a lake. I don't care. It cost you almost $8,000, and it taught me a $7,500 lesson about who you really are, worth every penny. The revelation session. During our marathon conversation, more truth came out than I think Jessica intended to reveal. The timeline. Tyler wasn't just someone she had recently met. They had been talking for almost 3 months, coinciding exactly with when Jessica became distant and started having doubts about our relationship. The nature of their relationship. It started as casual conversations after yoga class, progressed to coffee dates, then to long text message conversations and phone calls. Jessica insisted they had never been physically intimate, but admitted there was emotional intimacy and romantic tension. The Brittany factor. Her maid of honor had been encouraging this relationship from the beginning. Brittany, who was going through a bitter divorce, had been telling Jessica that she was too young to settle down and should explore her options before committing to one man forever. The therapy lie. Jessica admitted she had never actually been to therapy. The therapist, who had supposedly helped her realize she was living according to other people's expectations, was actually Tyler, who had studied psychology in college and presented himself as an expert on relationships and personal growth. The plan. Tyler had specifically encouraged Jessica to ask for a break rather than ending the relationship outright. His advice was that she should test the waters with him while keeping me as a backup option. If things didn't work out, she could always come back to me, claim it was just cold feet, and proceed with the wedding. Hearing all of this was like getting punched in the gut repeatedly, but it also confirmed that my instincts had been correct. This wasn't a case of genuine pre-wedding jitters or a quarter-life crisis. This was calculated emotional manipulation by Tyler and enabling by Brittany, with Jessica as a willing participant. The final confrontation. After hours of circular conversation, I finally said what needed to be said. Jessica, you need to leave. Tonight. This conversation is over. Please, Michael, I have nowhere to go. You can go back to Brittany's like you planned. She's out of town for work. Then go to a hotel. You have $6,000 in your account. I spent some of that already. On what? She looked embarrassed. Clothes, and I loaned some to Brittany for her rent. Of course she did. Even her financial decision-making had become irresponsible. That's not my problem anymore, Jessica. You made your choices. Can I at least get my things? They're in the living room. I packed everything up for you. She looked surprised that I had been so thorough. All of it? Everything I could identify as yours. If I missed something, you can let me know, and I'll drop it off at your mom's house. She spent the next 30 minutes going through the boxes and bags I had prepared, occasionally crying over sentimental items or arguing that something was jointly purchased and therefore belonged to both of us. That throw pillow was a gift to both of us from your sister, she said about a decorative pillow. Keep it, I said. I wasn't going to argue over household accessories. By 2 a.m., she had packed her car, an Uber, since she no longer had access to her car, with all her belongings. The apartment looked strange with her things gone, emptier but also cleaner and more peaceful. I guess this is really it, she said at the door. This is what you wanted, Jessica. Space to discover yourself. I didn't want this. I don't know what I wanted. Yes, you did. You wanted Tyler without consequences. You wanted to explore other options without giving up your safety net. But that's not how real life works. She left without saying goodbye. The aftermath. Week 1 extended. The phone calls began. The next morning, my phone started ringing. First, Jessica's mother, Patricia. Mike, honey, Jessica called me in tears at 3 a.m. She said you canceled the wedding and kicked her out of the apartment. I calmly explained the situation from my perspective. Patricia listened without interrupting. Oh, sweetheart, she said when I finished. I was afraid something like this would happen. What do you mean? Jessica's been different lately, distant from the family. She's been making some questionable decisions and hanging around with people who don't seem to have her best interests at heart. Her father and I have been worried, but we didn't want to interfere with your relationship. There's another man, isn't there? Patricia asked gently. She mentioned someone named Tyler. Patricia sighed heavily. I'm so sorry, Mike. We both adore you. You've been nothing but good to our daughter, and you didn't deserve this. I appreciate that, Patricia. The money you put into that wedding, we never expected you to shoulder so much of the cost. David and I want to help make this right. That's very kind, but not necessary. We insist. We're sending you a check for $5,000. It won't cover everything, but we feel partially responsible for not stepping in when we saw the warning signs. Patricia, really, you don't need to. Yes, we do. Jessica made this mess. We're not going to let you suffer financially for her poor choices. And Mike, We want you to know that if you ever need anything, a reference, a recommendation, whatever, you call us. You're still family to us, even if our daughter doesn't appreciate what she had. Jessica's sister calls. 2 hours later, I got a call from Jessica's younger sister, Emma. Mike, I just heard. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Emma. Can I ask you something? Was there really another guy? Yes, someone named Tyler from her yoga class. Oh my God. She's been posting cryptic stuff up on social media for weeks about finding herself and not settling for less than you deserve. I thought it was just wedding stress. Apparently not. You know what? Good for you for not putting up with it. Jessica's always been selfish, but this is a new low. You deserve so much better. The vendor callbacks. Throughout the week, several vendors called to confirm details or ask questions about the cancellation. Michelle from the venue called. Michael, I hope you don't mind me asking, but are you doing okay? I've been in this business for 15 years and I've seen a lot of wedding drama. What your fiancé did was particularly cruel. Sarah, the photographer. I heard through the grapevine what really happened. I'm so sorry. For what it's worth, I think you handled it with incredible grace. Dude, I heard the whole story from Michelle at the venue. Your ex sounds like a piece of work. You dodged a bullet. It was simultaneously comforting and embarrassing to know that our personal drama had become gossip in Denver's wedding vendor network. The social media explosion. By the end of the first week, word had spread through our social circle. Jessica had apparently crafted a narrative that painted me as controlling and vindictive, claiming I had destroyed our wedding out of spite when she needed a little space to work through pre-wedding anxiety. But the truth has a way of coming out. Our mutual friend Sarah, different Sarah from the photographer, called me. Mike, I need to tell you something. Jessica posted this long thing on Facebook about how you punished her for being honest about her feelings and how you financially manipulated her during a vulnerable time. I figured she would spin it somehow. Well, here's the thing. Brittany commented on the post with way too much detail, basically confirming that there's another guy and that they had been planning this break strategy for months. She deleted the comment after like an hour, but not before a bunch of people screenshot it. Seriously? Yeah, and now people are asking questions. Emma commented defending you and basically called Jessica out for cheating. It's a whole mess. The screenshots. Later that day, my friend Jake forwarded me screenshots of the social media drama. Jessica's original post was a masterclass in manipulation. Going through a really difficult time right now. Sometimes when you're honest about needing space to grow, people react in ways that show you who they really are. Feeling grateful for the friends who support personal growth and disappointed in those who would rather control than love. Tash authenticity, growth, disappointed. But Brittany's comment, before she deleted it, was incredibly damaging. Girl, you're better off without him. Tyler is so much more supportive of your journey. At least now you can explore that connection without feeling guilty. Sometimes the universe puts people in our path to show us what we're missing. Emma's response was brutal. Are you seriously posting about authenticity when you were emotionally cheating on Mike for months? He canceled the wedding because you told him you needed space to discover yourself outside the relationship. He gave you exactly what you asked for. Maybe take some accountability instead of playing victim. Mike is the best thing that ever happened to you, and you threw it away for a yoga instructor who's probably already moved on to his next victim. The post had dozens of comments, mostly from people calling Jessica out or defending me. She ended up deleting the entire thing within 24 hours. Week 2, the Tyler situation develops. The first Tyler sighting. I didn't expect to see Tyler in person, but Denver's a smaller city than people think. I was at my usual coffee shop near work when I spotted him at a corner table with a woman who definitely wasn't Jessica. Tyler was exactly what I had imagined, mid-30s, conventionally attractive in a generic way. The kind of guy who probably used phrases like high vibe energy, unironically. He was deep in conversation with a blonde woman who was gazing at him with the same adoring look I remember Jessica having when she talked about her spiritual journey. I didn't approach them, but I did take a discreet photo and sent it to my friend Jake with the caption, "Spotted Tyler with his next victim." Jake's response, "Dude looks exactly like every guy who's ever tried to sell me essential oils." The Brittany intel. Jessica's cousin Amy reached out with some interesting information. I thought you should know. Brittany's been bragging to people about how she helped Jessica escape from your relationship. She's apparently taking credit for the whole thing, saying she opened Jessica's eyes to how controlling you were. What exactly is she saying? That you were financially controlling Jessica, that you isolated her from her friends, that you were trying to rush her into marriage before she was ready, basically painting you as an emotional abuser. This was particularly rich, considering that Jessica had been the one pushing for a quick engagement and elaborate wedding, while I had suggested multiple times that we slow down and focus on our relationship foundation. The funny thing is, Amy continued, Brittany's own divorce was finalized last month, and she's been incredibly bitter about it. I think she's projecting her own issues onto your relationship. The yoga studio connection. Through some light social media stalking, I'm not proud of it, but I was curious. I discovered that Tyler taught yoga at 3 different studios around Denver. His Instagram was full of shirtless poses, inspirational quotes about authentic living, and photos with various attractive women who all looked suspiciously similar to Jessica. One post from 2 months ago caught my attention. Sometimes the universe brings someone into your life to show you what's possible. Trust the journey. New connections, authenticity, trust the process. The post was dated exactly 1 week after Jessica had first mentioned her spiritual growth to me. Week 3, the workplace incident. The anonymous email. On Monday morning of week 3, I got called into a meeting with my boss, David, and someone from HR I'd never met before. "Mike, we need to discuss something sensitive," David said. "We received an anonymous email over the weekend that contains some serious allegations about your personal conduct." My stomach dropped. What kind of allegations? The HR representative, Susan, turned her laptop around to show me the email. It was sent from a clearly fake Gmail account and painted me as an emotionally unstable, controlling partner who had financially abused my ex-fiancée and was prone to vindictive behavior when challenged. The email specifically mentioned my workplace and position, suggested that I was a liability to the company, and included details about our breakup that only someone close to Jessica would know. "This is deeply concerning," I said after reading it, "and it's completely false." "We figured as much," David said. "I've managed you for 4 years, and this description doesn't match the employee I know at all, but we're obligated to document it and discuss it with you." I explained the situation honestly. The breakup, the wedding cancellation, Jessica's relationship with Tyler, and the social media drama that had followed. Susan took notes and asked clarifying questions. At the end of the conversation, she said, "Based on your work history and David's assessment of your character, we're treating this as a malicious personal attack rather than a legitimate workplace concern. However, if this escalates further or spills into the workplace, we may need to take additional steps." David walked me back to my office afterward. "For what it's worth, Mike, I think you handled an impossible situation with remarkable maturity. Most guys would have lost their minds." "Thanks, David. I appreciate your support. Just maybe be extra careful for a while. Document everything, and if you get any direct threats or harassment, let us know immediately." The security camera revelation. That evening, I decided to install a small security camera outside my apartment door. It wasn't expensive, just a basic wireless camera from Amazon that would send alerts to my phone if it detected motion. I'm glad I did. Week 4, the escalation. The attempted break-in. At 11:47 p.m. on Thursday night, my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the door camera. I opened the app and watched in real time as someone tried to use a key in my lock. It was Jessica. She stood there for almost 5 minutes, trying different keys and jiggling the door handle. When nothing worked, she just stared at the door. For another 3 minutes, she stood there motionless, and I could see her shoulders shaking like she was crying. Finally, she left. I saved the footage and forwarded it to my lawyer friend Jake with a message. "Is this something I should be worried about?" His response came back within an hour. "Yes, this is attempted breaking and entering. File a police report and consider getting a restraining order. Save all documentation." The police report. The next morning, I went to the Denver Police Department and filed a report. Officer Martinez was professional and thorough. "Do you feel threatened by your ex-fiancée?" she asked. "Not physically threatened, but I'm concerned about escalating behavior. First the anonymous email to my workplace, now this." "Has she made any direct threats?" "Not explicitly, but she's been spreading false information about me and clearly has access to keys to my apartment that I wasn't aware of." Officer Martinez gave me a case number and advised me to document any future incidents. "Unfortunately, unless she makes explicit threats or damages property, there's not much we can do at this point. But having this report on file will be helpful if things escalate." The landlord conversation. I called my landlord, Mrs. Chen, and explained the situation. "Oh dear, that's terrible. I'm so sorry you're going through this. I'm concerned that Jessica might have had a copy of the key made at some point. Is it possible to change the locks?" "Of course, I'll have a locksmith come out tomorrow. And Mr. Thompson, I'll add a note to your file that only you are authorized to receive keys or access the apartment." The locks were changed Friday afternoon. I felt significantly better knowing that Jessica no longer had any way to access my home. Week 5, the parents' intervention. David and Patricia's visit. Jessica's parents called on Saturday morning and asked if they could come by to talk. I agreed, curious about what they wanted to discuss. David and Patricia arrived looking tired and stressed. Patricia had clearly been crying. "Mike, we owe you an apology," David started. "We've learned some things about Jessica's behavior over the past month that we're deeply ashamed of." "What kind of things?" Patricia spoke up. "The anonymous email to your workplace came from Jessica's laptop. We know because she was staying with us last week, and we saw the sent email in her account when we were helping her with something else." I wasn't entirely surprised, but hearing it confirmed was still jarring. "There's more," David continued. "We hired a private investigator to look into this Tyler character after Emma told us some concerning things." "A private investigator?" "We were worried about Jessica's judgment and wanted to understand what kind of person she was getting involved with. What we found was disturbing." Patricia handed me a folder. "Tyler Martinez, 34 years old. He's been married twice and divorced twice. Both ex-wives filed restraining orders against him for harassment and stalking. He specifically targets women in committed relationships and uses psychological manipulation to convince them to leave their partners. I opened the folder and found printed social media profiles, court documents, and what appeared to be a pattern of behavior dating back several years. According to the investigator, Tyler typically dates his targets for 2 to 3 months before moving on to someone new. He's currently involved with at least 3 different women that they could identify. Including Jessica? As of 2 days ago, yes. But also a woman named Rachel from his Tuesday yoga class and someone named Amanda from his Friday class. David leaned forward. Mike, our daughter has been completely manipulated by a predator. That doesn't excuse her behavior toward you, but it explains it. What do you want me to do with this information? Nothing, Patricia said quickly. We're not asking you to take her back or forgive her. We just wanted you to understand that the Jessica who destroyed your relationship isn't really our daughter. She's been systematically manipulated by someone who does this professionally. We also wanted to give you this, David said, handing me an envelope. It's a check for the full amount of money you lost on the wedding. We calculated everything based on the vendor contracts and receipts Jessica had. I opened the envelope. The check was for $18,500. I can't accept this. Yes, you can, Patricia said firmly. Our daughter caused this financial damage through her poor choices. We raised her better than this, and we're not going to let you bear the cost of her mistakes. What about Jessica? Have you told her about Tyler's background? David and Patricia exchanged a look. We tried, Patricia said. She accused us of trying to sabotage her happiness and said we were probably working with you to manipulate her. She moved out of our house 3 days ago, and we haven't heard from her since. Week 6, the Tyler revelation, the coffee shop meeting. On Tuesday of week 6, I got a text from an unknown number. Hey, this is Tyler. I know this is weird, but can we meet for coffee? There's stuff about Jessica you should know. Against my better judgment and Jake's legal advice, I agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a busy Starbucks in downtown Denver. Tyler was exactly what I expected in person. Handsome in a generic way, overly confident body language, the kind of guy who probably referred to himself as an entrepreneur and life coach on dating apps. Look, man, he started before I could even sit down. I need to apologize. For what specifically? For fucking up your life. Jessica told me you guys were already basically broken up when we started talking. She said you were controlling and emotionally absent and that the relationship had been over for months. And you believed her? I wanted to believe her. She was beautiful and interesting and seemed really unhappy. I didn't ask too many questions because I didn't want to know the answers. What changed? Tyler looked genuinely uncomfortable. She got clingy real fast after you guys officially broke up. Started talking about moving in together, meeting my parents, planning a future. When I told her I wasn't looking for anything serious, she completely lost it. How so? Screaming, crying, threatening to hurt herself if I left her. She showed up at my apartment at 2 a.m. multiple times. She started calling my ex-wives to ask about our relationships. She contacted my employer, claiming I was harassing her students. I sat back in my chair. This was a side of Jessica I had never seen. She told me the truth about your relationship, Tyler continued. That you guys were planning to get married in like 6 weeks when she met me. That she made up the whole self-discovery thing because she was scared to just break up with you normally. Why are you telling me this? Because she's been stalking me for 2 weeks, and yesterday she told me she was going to win you back by proving that I manipulated both of you. She thinks if she can convince you that I'm the villain, you'll take her back. That's not happening. I figured, but I thought you should know. Also, he looked around nervously. She's been saying some really crazy stuff about you, about how you stole her money and destroyed her life, and how you need to pay for what you did. What does that mean? I don't know, but it sounds like she might try something stupid. I wanted to warn you. Tyler, can I ask you something? Sure. How many other women like Jessica have there been? He had the decency to look ashamed. A few. More than a few. And do they all end up like this? Obsessed and stalking you? Not all of them. But, yeah, some do. Look, I know how this sounds, but I never set out to hurt anyone. I like the excitement of new relationships, and women in long-term relationships seem more interesting because they're not looking for something serious. That's sociopathic, Tyler. I know. I'm actually starting therapy because of this whole situation. Jessica made me realize that I have some serious issues to work through. Before I left, Tyler gave me one more piece of information. She's been staying at some extended stay hotel near the airport. Room 237 at the in-town suites on Tower Road. I thought you should know in case you need to tell the police or something. Week 7, the final confrontation. The surprise visit. On Thursday evening, I came home from work to find Jessica sitting in the hallway outside my apartment. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept or showered in days. We need to talk, she said, standing up unsteadily. No, we don't. Yes, we do. I know Tyler talked to you. He did. Whatever he told you, he's lying. He manipulated both of us, Michael. He's a predator who targeted me because he knew I was vulnerable. I unlocked my door but didn't invite her in. Jessica, it's over. It's been over for 7 weeks. I made a mistake. A huge, terrible mistake. But we can fix this. We can't. I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. I'll sign a prenup. I'll prove to you that I choose you. I don't want you to choose me anymore, Jessica. I want you to move on with your life. That's when she played what she thought was her trump card. I'm pregnant. I stopped in my doorway and turned around. Excuse me? I'm pregnant, Michael, with your baby. I did quick math in my head. We hadn't been intimate in over 3 months. We haven't had sex since June, Jessica. It's now September. It was that night in June, after Jake's wedding. You had been drinking and I wasn't drinking at Jake's wedding because I was the designated driver, and we used protection, and you were on birth control. Sometimes these things happen. I pulled out my phone and opened the calendar app. June 15th was 14 weeks ago. You would be showing by now. She just stared at me. Also, you've been with Tyler for the past 2 months. If you were actually pregnant, you wouldn't know whose it was. It's yours. I know it's yours. Prove it. Show me the positive pregnancy test. I threw it away. Then show me blood work from a doctor. I haven't been to a doctor yet. Jessica, you're not pregnant. You're desperate. The facade finally cracked completely. She started crying. Not pretty tears, but the ugly, snotty kind that comes with total breakdown. I know I'm not pregnant, she sobbed. I don't know what else to do. I ruined everything. I threw away the best relationship I ever had for a guy who didn't even want me. For a moment, I felt genuinely sorry for her. But then I remembered the anonymous email to my workplace, the attempted break-in, the character assassination on social media. You need professional help, Jessica, but you're not going to get it from me. Please, Michael, I love you. I really do love you. No, you don't. You love the security I represented. You love having someone to fall back on, but you don't love me. That's not true. If it's not true, then why did you tell Tyler our relationship was already over? Why did you send an anonymous email to my boss trying to get me fired? Why did you try to break into my apartment last week? She looked shocked that I knew about these things. I was desperate. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to plan and execute multiple forms of harassment and manipulation. This isn't love, Jessica. This is obsession. I'll stop. I'll leave you alone. Just give me one more chance. There are no more chances. You need to accept that and move on. The legal resolution of restraining order. After Jessica's final visit, I decided to take Jake's advice and file for a restraining order. The evidence was overwhelming. The anonymous email to my workplace. Security camera footage of the attempted break-in. Documentation of the social media harassment. Text messages and voicemails that had become increasingly erratic. The judge granted a temporary restraining order and scheduled a hearing for the following week. Jessica didn't contest it. According to the court clerk, she had moved back to Colorado Springs to stay with her parents. The final financial settlement. David and Patricia's check for $18,500 more than covered my wedding-related losses. After some consideration, I decided to keep $12,000 to cover my actual damages and donated the remaining $6,500 to a domestic violence prevention organization in Denver. It felt like the right way to close that chapter. 3 months later, the aftermath. Jessica's new life. Through the social media grapevine, Emma kept me loosely informed. I learned that Jessica had moved to Phoenix to stay with her aunt and start fresh. She had unfriended or blocked most of our mutual friends and seemed to have gone dark on social media entirely. According to Emma, she was working receptionist at a dental office and living in a small apartment near downtown Phoenix. No mention of Tyler or any new romantic interests. I think the whole experience really broke her, Emma told me during one of our occasional check-ins. Mom says she's in therapy now, which is good, but she's like a completely different person. Very quiet, very withdrawn. The Tyler update. Tyler's pattern continued exactly as predicted. According to Amy, who had become my unofficial intel source, he had moved on to a new target within 2 weeks of Jessica's breakdown, a newly engaged woman named Sarah who was planning a destination wedding in Mexico. Some people never learn, Amy said, but at least you dodged that bullet. My new normal. The apartment felt different without Jessica's constant chaos and drama. Quieter, but in a good way. I slept better, worked more productively, and rediscovered hobbies I had abandoned during our relationship. I used some of the money I had saved by not having a wedding to take a solo trip to Italy. Ironically, following the same itinerary Jessica and I had planned for our honeymoon. It was therapeutic in a way I hadn't expected. 6 months later, the unexpected contact. The email. In March, 6 months after our breakup, I received an email from Jessica. It was sent from a new email address and was surprisingly mature and self-aware. Michael, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, and I understand if you delete this without reading it. I'm writing this letter as part of my therapy, not because I expect anything from you. I want to apologize for everything I put you through. The manipulation, the lies, the harassment. None of it was acceptable, and none of it was your fault. You handled an impossible situation with more grace and maturity than I had any right to expect. I've been in intensive therapy for 4 months now, and I'm starting to understand how deeply I was manipulated by Tyler, and more importantly, how I allowed myself to be manipulated because it gave me permission to act on impulses I was ashamed of. I destroyed the best relationship I ever had because I was scared of commitment and drawn to the excitement of something new. Instead of working through those feelings with you or in therapy, I let someone else validate my worst instincts and convince me that my feelings were more important than my commitments. I know I can't undo the damage I caused, and I'm not asking for forgiveness or a second chance. I just wanted you to know that I understand now how wrong I was and how much pain I caused someone who loved me unconditionally. I hope you're happy and healthy. You deserve all the good things life has to offer. Jessica P.S. I heard through Emma that you donated part of my parents' check to charity. That was incredibly generous and says everything about the kind of person you are. I read the email twice, then forwarded it to Jake for his legal opinion. It seems genuine, he said when we talked. And importantly, she's not asking for anything or suggesting contact. I think you can take it at face value, someone taking accountability as part of their recovery process. I never responded to the email, but I was glad she was getting help. 1 year later, reflection. The lessons learned. Looking back on the whole experience, I learned several important lessons. Trust your instincts. I had felt something was wrong for months, but talked myself out of believing it. Actions speak louder than words. Jessica said she loved me, but her actions showed she loved the idea of me more than the reality. You can't save someone from their own choices. Jessica made conscious decisions to prioritize excitement over stability, and no amount of love from me could have changed that. Documentation is crucial. Keeping records of everything protected me when the situation turned ugly. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. Giving Jessica exactly what she asked for, space to discover herself, wasn't punishment. It was respect for her stated needs. The new relationship. I started dating again about 8 months after the breakup. Nothing serious at first, just casual coffee dates and dinners with women I met through friends or dating apps. In January, I met Sarah, yet another Sarah, apparently it's a popular name in Denver, at a bookstore. She was buying a cookbook for her sister's birthday. I was browsing the travel section, and we ended up talking for 2 hours about places we wanted to visit. Sarah is different from Jessica in every important way. She's calm where Jessica was chaotic, direct where Jessica was manipulative, independent where Jessica was clingy. She has her own apartment, her own career, her own friend group, and her own goals that don't revolve around Instagram-worthy moments. We've been together for 4 months now, and I've been honest with her about my previous relationship and why it ended. She appreciates that I handled a difficult situation with integrity, and she's never shown any jealousy or insecurity about my past. You learned what you don't want, she said recently. That's just as valuable as learning what you do want. The final update. As I write this, it's been exactly 1 year since Jessica asked for space to discover herself. I'm sitting in the same apartment, but it feels like a completely different place. The constant tension and drama have been replaced by peace and stability. The financial stress of wedding planning has been replaced by the satisfaction of rebuilding my savings and investing in my future. I still occasionally wonder what would have happened if I had fought harder for our relationship, if I had begged her to reconsider, if I had tried to compete with Tyler for her attention. But then I remember that relationships shouldn't be competitions, and love shouldn't require convincing someone to choose you. Jessica asked for space to discover herself outside of our relationship. I gave her exactly what she asked for. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone go completely, even when they don't really want you to. Especially when they don't really want you to. The apartment is quiet now, but it's a good quiet. It's the sound of authenticity, of self-respect, of a chapter finally closed and a new one beginning. And honestly, I've never been happier to be exactly where I am. TLDR, Fiancée wanted to postpone our wedding 6 weeks out to discover herself. Code for, explore a relationship with her yoga instructor while keeping me as backup. I took her literally, canceled everything, recovered what money I could, and moved on completely. She tried everything from emotional manipulation to harassment to get me back, but some bridges can't be rebuilt. A year later, I'm in a healthy relationship with someone who actually wants to be with me, and my ex is in therapy in another state. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up. Thanks for all the support, everyone. And yes, I kept documentation of everything. Bank transfers, text messages, security camera footage, the works. CYA is always the way to go in situations like this. Edit 2. For those asking about the legal aspects, yes, I consulted with a lawyer friend throughout the process. Everything I did was completely legal since my name was on all the accounts and property, and we weren't legally married. The restraining order was straightforward, given the evidence of harassment. Edit 3. To the people saying I was too harsh or should have fought for the relationship, respectfully disagree. You don't fight for someone who's already checked out. Jessica made her choice when she started emotionally cheating and planning her exit strategy. I just helped her execute it cleanly. Edit 4. Someone asked what happened to Tyler. Last I heard through the grapevine, he's still doing his thing in Denver, but word has gotten around about his pattern. Apparently, several women in the yoga community have compared notes and figured out his MO. Karma has a way of catching up with people like that. Final edit. I'm turning off notifications now because this has gotten overwhelming. To anyone going through something similar, document everything, trust your instincts, set firm boundaries, and don't let anyone guilt you into accepting treatment you don't deserve. You're worth more than being someone's backup plan.